Hey guys, Panzer J back here in Operation from Russia with Love. Hopefully you guys were following along in over the course of the YouTube war, and if you were, then you know that Boston Bruce went ahead and rolled the variable ending for the variable ending at the end of the U.S. turn, and he rolled a 1. He needed a 1 through 3 to end the game, so the game does officially end here on turn 17, July of 44. In the Axis, we're able to pull out the victory. We finished with 11 points, and I believe the Russians had 5 or 6, and the Allies had either 4 or 5. So, really hard fought game. I definitely got to give all kinds of praise both to my partners, Hambone and a board gaming bro, as well as our opponents, Boston Bruce, Global War 36 enthusiast, and Silk. I don't think the final tally of points is indicative of how close this game was. As a matter of fact, I think this was either my 6th or 7th YouTube war, and I believe this was the hardest fought of all of them. As the Axis, we got out to an early lead, which most games the Axis do. But we're really just kind of holding on here at the end of the game. Several of the victory points we currently have are in jeopardy if the game would have went longer. The Allies and the Comintern both played great games. So I think that we would have been able to hold on if it would have went one more turn to turn 18. Turn 19, it would have been starting to get really dicey. I'm not sure that we would have lasted past turn 18. So thankfully for us as the Axis, the game did end when it did. But first, with my opponents, I thought Silk played a great game as Russia. I mean, if you look at the map, he's got Romania, he's got all of Poland except for Warsaw. This might be the best I've seen the Russians play in a YouTube war, honestly. Most of the time, if Moscow doesn't fall, they're at the very least, back on their heels, and the Germans are fairly deep in Russian territory. But Silk has got, this force here in Romania is this card right over here, which is a huge stack of T-34s, advanced mechs, Katyusha rocket launchers, infantry. So, he is really poised to drive even deeper into Europe and possibly even reach Germany itself. So Russia, they've got all of Turkey. They did have all of Finland at one point. They're down in the Middle East. So the Russians, honestly, I think in terms of units on the board, probably are the strongest country in the game. So Silk played great. I think it's just, the game ended too soon for Russia to be able to pull out a victory. As far as the Allies, same thing. Boston Bruce and Global War 36 enthusiasts played a great game. They were pretty far behind, maybe even just 4 or 5 turns ago, and look at where they're at now. They've ejected Italy basically from all of Africa. The U.S. has all of North Africa. The British are back in control of all of South and Central Africa. The Allies are building up a huge force from New York over to London, ready to do Operation Overlord. There's no Italian warships in the Med at all. The European Axis powers have been completely kicked out of the Med, at least in terms of naval units. Even in the Pacific, Japan, they kind of have a free run right now, but even that, Calcutta was never in any danger, and Peter's got a pretty strong force coming down to Malaya, and then Bruce broke out of Yunnan a couple of turns ago with a KMT, and they're starting to apply some pressure there too. So really, as Japan, the only area that I don't really have any competition is in the water. The Allies, I think, have a couple of U.S. coastal subs, and that's about it. But then you do have some U.S. naval units down here on the coast of East Africa, so they could come over through the Indian Ocean. But I definitely love how the Allies played this game. Well, again, they started, kind of in the hole early on. And I thought, honestly, I thought we'd be able to bury them a little bit, but it's not that way at all. They are really on the move, especially through Africa and potentially into Western Europe there. So all three of those guys played a great game, and that's why I say this is probably the most competitive, hard-fought YouTube war I've been in. Just very few mistakes, very few missteps, and just really good play across the board. As far as my allies go, they also played a great game. Hambone is the Germans. I did watch his recap video. He's a little bit hard on himself. I thought he had some horrible luck with the dice this game, especially the convoy raiding that he attempted throughout the game. That was absolutely horrible. He got diced a bunch. And, he was going up against Silk, who has a lot more experience playing V4 games than the rest of us. So he had all kinds of pressure from the Russians once the Molotov-Ribbentrop pact ended. He was facing a lot of pressure there. And then he was also helping out Italy as much as he could. So that was also diverting some of his forces down there. But I thought he played a great game overall. He's got all of France. He was all the way up to the border with the Soviet Union. And again, he had forces down in the Med helping Italy out. So I thought he did a great job. As far as Italy, a board gaming bro, I thought Cade played a really good game. Honestly, I don't really... watching him play Italy, I'm not sure Italy could be played better, honestly. And the sad part of that is, look at the position Italy's in right now. They've got Malta and Italy, and that's it. And again, I think that's playing Italy about as well as you can play them. At one point, Cade had all of North Africa. He was down here into Central Africa. The Med, if not free of Allied ships, was pretty bare for a while there. He was doing some convoy raiding. Obviously, he took Malta. He had all of Greece. So, I mean, really, what more could you ask for? The problem is that just Italy, even when they get off to that good of a start, they just don't have the income to sustain it. And then once I think Peter and Bruce decided that Italy was going to be the target of their aggression, the writing's on the wall. There's really not a whole lot Italy can do at that point. I think watching Cade play as Italy and just an overall Italian strategy, I think for Italy, they pretty much have to take either Gibraltar or Cairo, one or the other. I mean, obviously, it'd be awesome if they took both, but then Italy would really be a bear at that point. But if they could just even take one of those two, it would shut down one end of the Mediterranean, and Italy, wouldn't be getting caught in a vice between the two. If they can just get one of those two territories, like I said, they can shut off the Mediterranean at that end and kind of just deal with the Allies from one direction. So I think if I happen to play Italy in the future, I think that might be, with hopefully some help from my German friends, the direction I'll go, just to try to give them a little bit more sustainability there. But again, Cade played great. The other issue with Italy is, even when you have them rolling like Cade did, and he had a bunch of territories, the islands in Greece, and some of the territories down here in Central Africa. None of these territories are really worth much of anything. A bunch of them don't even have an IPP value at all. and the ones that do are usually $1 a piece. So it's like, even if you take, a half a dozen, 8, 10 territories that you didn't originally own, you're only making your income go up a few dollars, and bringing home 15, 16, 17 bucks is just, it's just not going to cut it. It just really isn't. So I'm not sure what the answer is for Italy, to be honest with you. On to Japan. So my idea going in playing Japan was that I thought that potentially the U.S. and obviously the Commonwealth are going to be my two biggest opponents in the Pacific. So I need to early on invest in naval units and be prepared once I'm at war with those guys to be able to at least have some kind of even footing in terms of naval units. So I early on made the decision that I was going to start construction on some ships almost every turn if I could, so that once I was at war with the U.S. and the Commonwealth, they'd be at stage 2 where I could just pay them off and drop them down right away and kind of have like an instant fleet. I didn't want to go the capital ship route because obviously you give the U.S. the income bonus by starting construction on battleships and carriers. So I didn't want to go that route, so I figured I would do the heavy cruisers. So I was at least starting construction on one a turn for a while there, and just kind of having them sitting there on stage 2 for when I needed them. It didn't turn out that I really needed many of them, honestly, just the way the game turned out. But that was my thinking, that I wanted to build as strong of a Navy as possible. And going towards that thinking with like the islands. So I figured obviously at some point I'm going to go into the Money Islands, some of these Central Pacific islands, take them off the Allies, the Philippines, maybe Wake, Guam, Midway, and whatnot. And so then I'm thinking, well, I can defend the islands one of two ways primarily. I can either invest in putting ground units on the islands themselves, or I can build up a strong enough Navy that maybe I can keep the Allies away from even landing on those islands to begin with. So I decided to go that route. That was in line with my idea of building ships from the start, that not only the powerful Navy that I was hoping to get could compete with the U.S. and the Commonwealth if a major naval clash came down the road, but then also with a strong Navy, I could kind of patrol the Pacific and keep the Allies from landing on those islands and taking them back. And that in turn would mean I wouldn't have to invest as much in terms of the ground units on the islands themselves. As a matter of fact, for most of the game, just until the last, I think, turn, or maybe even 2, I dropped some units down here on the Money Islands. But prior to that, most of the islands I had were completely empty of any units whatsoever, not even so much as a militia, because I had taken between the steps I took and the Allies pulling kind of out of the Pacific, I didn't have to worry about that. So that was kind of like my overall strategy when I started. I also, much like most Japanese players do, I wanted to buy Marines pretty much every turn. You can buy a maximum of 2 per turn, and I think for maybe about the first, 6, 7, 8 turns maybe, I made sure I bought 2 Marines every turn. Obviously, Marines are probably more important to Japan than pretty much any other country in the game. You're obviously going to use them to, assault the islands, but even on the coast of China, possibly if you can get to Calcutta or down into Sydney. So I wanted to have a big stack of Marines available once I went to war. So I bought a bunch of them. Besides that, in China, I don't know. I'm still kind of on the fence with what to do with China. Originally, I wasn't really thinking about going in too heavy. I thought I didn't want to get sucked into an ongoing war that I really couldn't finish and eat up resources, and that's really what happened. But at the same time, Nanking is a victory point, so there's one. And then there are a handful of $2 territories in China. So that obviously helps out with the income as well as the 6 Chinese territories that are a bonus. So it does, make sense as Japan to go in there and get that money, especially since it doesn't trigger, like a big U.S. like die roll to come into the war or anything. So I get that, but at the same time, you look at how things are right now. I had the KMT backed up to just Yunnan, so I wiped out the CCP, so that was the good news. And the KMT was backed up into Yunnan. The problem is, and most good KMT players will do this. There's so much in Yunnan. There's, usually a stack of 10 infantry, 10, 15 infantry. There's a bunch of militia, some cavalry maybe, and it's mountainous that it's the resources that Japan has to expend to take out that last KMT stronghold it's really gonna put you behind the 8 ball in terms of investing in a navy to eventually compete with the Commonwealth and the U.S. So once I had Bruce backed up into Yunnan, I was like, well, what are you going to do? I just don't have the forces to completely wipe out the KMT, which as long as Japan is fighting just in China, it's not a big deal. The KMT stuck in Yunnan. They don't really do much of anything. You can, you invest your money, building other units. But the problem comes in is once you're at war with a major power, again, like the Commonwealth or the U.S., or even both, obviously, then you can't put the resources into China to keep the KMT battled up, and then they eventually start breaking out a little bit, especially if Burma is open and they can get Lend-Lease. I know Bruce Lend-Leased a couple of Strat bombers and some artillery to the KMT. So, and as you can see, that's exactly what Bruce did. In the last half a dozen turns, maybe not that many, but the last 4 or 5 turns, whatever, he started to break out. He's got Shenxi now. He's in Hunan, right adjacent to Nanking. So that's your problem, I think, is Japan. You can get the KMT backed up and battled up all the way to Yunnan, but then they're going to break out once your attention is directed elsewhere, and it's always going to be. You're not going to have a game where the Japanese aren't fighting the U.S. and the Commonwealth. So I don't know. I mean, I guess you could try to completely finish off the KMT, but like I said, the resources that you would have to put into doing that. So now you take out the KMT, and then 2 turns later, you're at war with the Commonwealth or the U.S., and because it took so much of your resources to wipe out the KMT, you don't have crap for a navy to contend with the big boys. So I don't know. I'm not sure what the answer is for Japan in that regard, but I did the best I could to keep the KMT battle up as long as possible. So that was China. The other thing that as the game progressed and the Allies' attention went elsewhere, I was talking with Cade and Hambone and like, well, what can I do to help you guys out? Because it seems like definitely 100% of the Russian attention was on Germany, and most of that 100% was from the Allies was also directed to Germany and Italy. So I'm like, well, what can I do to help relieve some of the pressure on you guys? And that's when I started bringing units over to Africa. So I was loading up transports here in Malaya and bringing them over. I dropped off eventually a couple of Marines, handful of artillery, a bunch of infantry. I did at one point have Madagascar here. And I think that it helped for a couple of turns. It gave... It caused Peter to have to, and Bruce for that matter, to have to take out those Japanese units. So it delayed by maybe a couple of turns them being able to directly go after Italy here in East Africa. I would have liked to have done more, but Bruce in that carpet bombing, he wiped out like 3 Japanese infantry, and it was fortuitous for the Allies actually, because on the turn that I think I was here in Tanganyika. And on the turn that he did that, if he hadn't either done that or if he didn't get those hits, on the Japanese next turn, I was going to come down and amphibiously assault Cape Town. And I don't think Peter had a lot down there at that time, at that point. I think the Japanese forces I had, which were a couple of Marines, a couple of artillery, I think a fighter might have been able to reach. I would have had a couple of shore bombards. So I think the odds would have been in my favor to take Cape Town. But then once Bruce did that carpet bombing and he wiped out those infantry, that took away any chance I had of taking Cape Town. So then it was just, holding on and causing as much trouble as I could there in Africa to delay them going after Italy. The other thing I tried to do to give the Allies something else to think about besides just Italy was here in Alaska. So I came into the Aleutian Islands and then I built a miner factory. I didn't really think that the miner factory was going to pay off, honestly. I'm still too far away from really the vital U.S. territories or the territories in Canada that really would make a difference. But I figured if I dropped that miner factory there, it would give Bruce something to think about and maybe cause him to get a little nervous maybe and start deploying units here on the West Coast, thinking that maybe, I was going to make a push there. So, and if he hadn't, and it worked for a little bit. I think there was at least 2 or 3 turns. I mean, currently right now, he only has ground units here on the West Coast, but he just moved a bunch of planes. So for about 2 or 3 turns, he did have a bunch of planes. He had a couple of strat bombers, a bunch of fighters. So I did cause him and Peter to react to a certain extent by dropping that miner factory. And then I also built an airborne there, hoping, to scare those guys into thinking maybe I was going to do an airborne drop somewhere, maybe in Canada or the Western U.S. So, and again, I mean, it kind of threw away $8 on the miner factory, but at least it, again, gave those guys something to think about for a couple of turns there and diverted at least some resources, hopefully, away from Italy and Germany. And that's what I was trying to do with that miner factory and some of the stuff I was doing up here in Alaska. Besides that, I think pretty much everything else is covered. This fleet here kind of just sat here not doing much for probably the last third of the game. So in a sense, it was kind of a waste just leaving those ships there. But at the same time, I didn't want to send that fleet, maybe bring it from Hawaii and try to make its way all the way down through the Indian Ocean over to Africa. If I would have tried that, I'm sure Bruce would have probably brought some of his ships from the Atlantic over, and then I wouldn't have had anything over here in the Pacific to defend. So I figured, even though that fleet kind of just sat there and didn't do much of anything, at least it was a deterrent to Bruce, and it was, centrally positioned there in case he did, either bring some units over, naval units, or maybe drop some naval units off of San Francisco there. So I was actually going to make a play for Panama, and then hopefully get my subs through the Panama Canal and maybe start doing some convoy raiding, or maybe if Bruce left some transports undefended there on the Atlantic seaboard. That was my plan, but that was dependent on me. That was maybe 2 turns ago, I think, but that was dependent on me getting long-range aircraft so that my planes that are on these carriers could hit Panama and still, have a place to land. But I didn't hit long-range aircraft that turn, so there's no way I was going to take Panama with a couple of Marines and a couple of shore bombards. I needed those planes. So, but I was hoping if I would have got long-range aircraft, I would have went for Panama. I think Bruce at the time had 2 militia, 2 infantry, and a coastal artillery gun there. So if I would have taken that again would have hopefully drawn some of his attention away from going full on into Africa and after the Italians. And then again, I would have been able to slip my subs through the Panama Canal there and maybe do some damage there, but that didn't end up happening. As far as against the Commonwealth, it was pretty clear early on that Peter was going to defend Calcutta at all costs. He was almost all of his income went to putting units in Calcutta, as well as he was actually bringing a bunch of units from Australia over as well. So fairly early on, I got the idea that unless there was a complete collapse on his part. Calcutta probably wasn't going to be in the cards for me. But the consequence of that is it left Australia fairly defenseless. So I was able to, I then prioritized taking Sydney at that point and said, well, Calcutta, if something happens down the road, okay, fine. If not, we'll just do Sydney for now, and hopefully that'll be good enough. And it was. I landed there in New South Wales. It took me a while to actually go into Sydney just because there was no way. I had it surrounded. There was no way for the Allies to get any reinforcements in, so I kind of just took it, on my time. I wanted to build up enough. I was still going into a city, and he did have a fortification, so it didn't turn out to be that difficult of a battle, but I wanted to be, maybe a little bit more cautious and make sure I had the forces there. So, and that's pretty much it. Nothing happened with Russia, although I did see that Silk has gone into Manchuria here on his latest video. So the first part of this video is just a recap, and then we are actually going to continue the game for a couple of turns. It's not going to affect the outcome. It is an Axis victory, but I know Bruce and maybe a couple other guys wanted to just see what happens if we play a couple more turns, so I think we're going to go to turn 19. So I haven't processed Silk's turn yet, but I did see that he went into Manchuria. So as far as prior to him stabbing me in the back and invading my Manchurian territories, my idea with Russia was just basically to keep things friendly. I actually don't mind the idea of Japan going into the Soviets' far eastern territories, especially to help out Germany, and attack Russia maybe from two directions and kind of stretch their resources a little bit. But I had my hands full in China and the Pacific, so it just didn't really seem like an opportunity that I could go into those Russian territories and really hold on to them. My resources were already kind of stretched a little bit thin, but under different circumstances, I'm definitely not against the idea of Japan going into those Russian territories. So we kept the peace up until turn 18 here, and we'll have to do something about those dastardly Russians and see if we can take some of our territory back and maybe take some stuff off of them. So that's pretty much it for the recap. So I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you had a lot of fun. I know it was a lot of fun playing. Like I said, great group of guys and super highly competitive. So definitely enjoyed playing. I'm going to turn this video off, and I'm going to get to my turn 18 here, and I'll probably splice that together with this recap video for you guys. And I think, like I said, I think we're doing turns 18 and 19. So a couple more turns, just kind of a what if, extra innings kind of overtime, couple of turns for you guys. So we'll see you back here in a little bit. Hey guys, Panzer J back here in operation from Russia with Love. The game did officially end on turn 17 with an Axis victory, but we're going to go ahead and play a couple more turns just to play things out a little bit and see how things turn out. So we are in the overtime portion of From Russia with Love. Turn 18, 18.4 for Japan, January of 45. So we're going to get over our tech rolls. I know that Hambone did not roll his tech for his German turn 18, but we're at stage 3 with a couple of techs here, so it actually could affect things. So we're going to go ahead and roll for our 2 techs. So we're sitting at stage 3 for radar, 7 or higher, and stage 3 long-range aircraft, 8 or higher. So radar first, and a 4 misses, and then long-range aircraft. And a 7 we miss. So no tech for us. Okay. On to purchases. So we're at $76. So we're spending all of it. We're going to do 4 medium armor for 24, 4 infantry for 12, that's 36, 2 infantry for 6, that's 42, a militia for 2, that's 44, and then a militia upgrade for 2, that's 46, 5 militia for 10, that's 56, and then 2 fighters for 20, that's 76. Okay, so attacks, I believe we might have 5, I think, this turn. So I've already started moving some of the pieces around here because I want to see exactly what I had in each territory. Okay, so battle number 1 is going to be here in Shantung. So Bruce has a cavalry, and I'm going to bring an infantry and 2 medium armor out of Nanking. And then if I take that territory in less than 2 rounds or less, I can blitz into Hunan with those 2 medium armor. Then into Hunan are going to be the 2 medium armor, and they're going to cross a river, so they'll be -1 on the first round. Coming out of Nanking is going to be 7 infantry, 2 motorized, 2 artillery, as well as a fighter. And they're not crossing any rivers. We're going to take these 3 infantry and Kwangtung and come over. Now they will cross a river, so they'll be -1 on that first round. And then down here in the South Pacific, we're going to have these 2 destroyers come up 1, 2, 3 and drop off a Marine they picked up from Java and a Marine they picked up from Borneo. And then this one of these 2 transports here in P50 are going to pick up the Marine and the infantry on Sumatra and come up 1, 2 and drop those guys off as well. So one of those transports goes up there. Then also from Malaya, we are at an air base. So we got to move in a 5. We're going to take 2 tacticals and 2 fighters and come 1, 2, 3, 4 into Hunan. Okay. That's battle number 2. Number 3 is going to be a walk-on. So we are definitely not happy with the dastardly stab in the back from the Soviet Union. So we want to exact a little bit of revenge if we can on the Soviet Union. So we're going to take this naval transport, battleship, and heavy cruiser and come down 1, 2 to P9. And we're going to drop those 2 Marines off on Kamchatka. It's not worth anything, but we just want Russian territory after what they did to us. Okay. Battle number 4 is going to be a dicey one. But again, we're hungry for revenge. Okay, so we got 2 destroyers here in P36. They're going to pick up those 2 Marines, and they're going to come 1, 2, 3 to P7. Drop those 2 Marines off in Primorsky Krai. We're going to have the 1 transport that was already in P32 come up 1, 2. They picked up the 2 infantry in Kyushu and dropped them off in Primorsky. We're going to have a medium bomber from Nanking at an airbase go 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to have our 2 fighters from Rihe come over 1, 2. Okay. And then the last battle is going to be in Eastern Manchuria. So Silk has 2 infantry. We're going to come over with an infantry, 2 motorized, 2 artillery from Rihe. And then coming up 1, 2 is going to be a motorized and an artillery from Peking. And those are our 5 battles. So let's go ahead. I'll get some dice. I think we're going to need a bunch for this combat. Okay. So, battle number 1, we need to take out that cavalry in Shantung in 2 or less turns. So let's go ahead with our 2 medium armor at 6s. On a 6 and a 10, so we did get a hit. And his cavalry at a 2. And 11 misses. So, we go ahead and we take Shantung. And that's worth $2. Okay, so now those 2 medium armor are going to blitz into Hunan. Okay, so this is what we've got in the battle for Hunan, and there's stuff coming from all different directions, so hopefully I don't screw anything up here because it's a little more complicated than it might seem at first. Okay, so we both have first strikes, My 3 mountain infantry coming from Kwang Tung are crossing a river, so they're 1s on the first round. The 2 medium armor are crossing a river, so they're 5s on the first round. And since I'm amphibiously assaulting, I need to take casualties from these 3 Marines and that infantry. Okay, so I have 2 first strikes at 3 for my 2 artillery. And a 6 and a 9 miss. And then Bruce has 7. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 threes for Bruce. A 1, 5, 2 sevens, a 4, 2. So he got 1 hit. So I have to take that off the amphibiously assaulting unit. So I'm going to take a Marine. Okay, and that's it for first strike. So now on to regular combat round 1. Okay, so we have... Okay, so we've got our 3 mountain infantry that crossed a river. So there's 3 1s. 8, 6, and a 12. No hits. Okay. Then we've got 3 amphibiously assaulting units still alive. 2 Marines and an infantry. So here's 3 2s. 1, 2, and 11. So 2 hits. So Bruce wants to take his artillery first. So, and they've already fired, so we're going to take them right off the board. Okay. Then we've got 2 motorized infantry at 2s. And a 3 and an 8 both miss. We have 7 regular infantry. So 2 of them, these came from Nanking. So 2 of them can pair with the artillery. The other 5 are by themselves. So we get 5 2s. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 6, and 8. So 2 more hits. So Bruce is going to lose 2 more artillery. And then we get 2 remaining of the 7 that can pair with the artillery. So 2 3s. A 5 and a 7. 2 misses. Okay, so we've got our planes and our 2 medium armor left. So the 2 medium armor at 5 because of crossing a river. An 8 and a 6. They both miss. Then we've got 3 fighters at 6s. 2, 4, and a 6. So 3 hits. So Bruce will lose his 3 remaining artillery. And then we've got our 2 tacticals at 7. A 5 and a 12. So 1 more hit. So now we're into his infantry. So he wanted to take a regular infantry, but this guy does obviously get to fire back. Okay, so round 1 is done for the Japanese. So on to the KMT. So now we've got, first thing we got to get through here is these AA guns. So Bruce has 3 AA guns, so 9 rolls at a 3. So the first 3, 2, 7, and a 9, 1 hit. The next 3, 6, 10, and 11, so we're still at 1 hit. And the last 3. Oh my God. 2 2s and a 7, so 3 hits. So how wonderful. We're going to have to lose our 3 fighters. Shit. Okay, so that's it for the AA guns. So on to... Actually, I don't think Bruce will lose an infantry. I think he'll lose one of those AA guns because it's still going to get to fire. So I'm going to put his infantry back and take off an AA gun instead. Okay, so he gets 10 rolls with his infantry. 5 mountain and 5 regular. The first 5 at 4s. A 9, 8, 11, 2 6s, so 5 misses. And the next 5. 2, 3, 2 12s, and a 7, so 2 hits. So I believe, since we're still in the first round, I have to take the amphibiously assaulting guys first. So I'm going to take the 2 remaining Marines. Okay, so here, going into round 2, Bruce still has 5 infantry, 5 mountain infantry, and 2 AA. These mountain infantry are now 2s. We're past the river. So, and these 2 tanks are now 6s. Okay, so we should have left for the Japanese 2 tacticals, 2 motorized, 2 artillery, 2 medium armor, 3 mountain infantry, and 8 regular infantry. Okay. So let's go ahead. We'll try our 2. We'll go from top to bottom here. The 2 tacticals at 7s, a 1 and a 2. Wow. So 2 target select. So we're going to take, we'll take 2 mountain infantry. Okay. So then we've got 2 medium armor at 6s. And a 2 and 11, so 1 more hit. Bruce is going to take the AA gun. He's got 2 left, but they're useless after the first round, so I'm just going to take that off the board entirely. Okay, then we've got 2 artillery at 3s, along with 2 of our infantry pairing up with them. So 4 3s, 5, 9, 7, and 12, so 4 misses. Okay, so then we've got our 2 motorized at 2. 11 and a 6, 2 more misses. And then for our regular infantry class units, we should have 9. The 3 mountain and 6 of the 8 regular. Okay, so 9 2s. See at least 1 hit. I think that's it. 2 10s, 2 12s, 2 5s, and 8 of 4 and a 2. So 1 more hit. So Bruce will lose his last AA gun. It's useless anyways. Okay, so Bruce has got 10 4s, 2 of which are dead. Okay, but obviously they get to fire anyways. So the first 5 4s, 2 2s, a 10, 11, and 8. So he gets 2 hits. So we're going to lose, I guess, 2 regular infantry. Although, maybe I should start thinking about defense too, but we'll keep it for now because I'm sure he'll get more hits. Okay, and then he's got his 5 mountain infantry, 2 of which of these are dead. Wow. Yeah, that's kind of cocked, so we'll give that one to Bruce again. 9 misses. So he's got a 9, 11, 8, 2, and a 4. So 2 more hits. So we're going to actually lose the 2 motorized, I guess. Shit. We'll lose 2 regular infantry, I guess. Okay, so Bruce lost those 2 mountain. So he's down to 5 regular infantry and 3 mountain. Okay, so let's do our 2 tacticals at 7s. A 9 and an 8. How wonderful. 2 misses. Okay, 2 medium armor at 6. 6 and a 7, 1 hit. He'll lose a regular infantry. So this battle is getting a lot tougher here. Okay, we've got 2 artillery pairing with 2 infantry. So that's 4 3s. A 1, 3, 7, and a 12. So 2 more hits. So Bruce will lose 2 more infantry. And let's see, what do we got left? We'll put these 2 infantry with those guys. Take this chip off. And make it that. A little more organized. Okay, so we got 3 mountain, 2 regular infantry, and 2 motorized. So they're all 2s. So that should be 7 2s. So 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 2s. And not a 1 hit. 2 4s, 3 8s, a 6, and 11. Okay, so Bruce has got 3 mountain infantry at 4s. 2 5 and a 3. So 2 hits. Okay, so we're going to lose 2 more regular infantry. Okay, and then he's got his 5 regular infantry also at 4s. Two 1s, a 5, a 6, and an 11. So 2 more hits. Holy shit. Okay, so we're going to lose 2 mountain. We are taking a beating here. Okay, so Bruce is down to 5 units. He's got 2 regular infantry and 3 mountain infantry. We're going to press it. Why not? Okay, so we've got our 2 tacticals at 7s. A 3 and a 9. 1 hit. He loses an infantry. 2 medium armor at 6s. 6 and a 5. 2 more hits. So there goes his 2 infantry and 1 of the mountain. Okay, so we've got our 4 3s, 2 regular infantry, and 2 artillery. A 1, 3, 7, and a 12. So that should be our last 2 hits. Okay. And then I do still have 3 2s, the 2 motorized and the mountain. I'm just going to roll for them anyways. So 3 2s. And no hits. Okay, so Bruce has got 5 4s left. 2 more hits. 2, 3, 6, 5, and 12. So we're going to lose the mount. 2 more hits. So we're going to actually lose the 2 artillery. Why not? We're on defense now, I guess. So we'll lose the 2 artillery. So we end up taking Hunan back. And we take it with 2 regular infantry, a mountain infantry, 2 motorized infantry, and 2 medium armor. Okay, so that was battle number 2. That was quite long. Okay, battle number 3 was the walk-on in Kamchatka. Okay, so battle number 4 is going to be in Primorsky Krai. So Silk has a coastal artillery gun and 4 militia, but he does have the coastal gun's going to get 3 shots at my ship. So this is really dicey. I definitely cannot afford more than 1 hit here. So 3 rolls at a 3. Well, oh, I thought that 7 was a 1 at first. Oh, whew. Okay, so 1 hit. Well, here's the problem, though. If I take the Marine as the 1... Because if I take the Marine as the 1 hit, then he gets a hit with his militia, then I'm going to lose both of the... I guess we're going to take 1 destroyer. So a destroyer and a Marine go down to the coastal artillery gun. Okay, so we've got a Marine, 2 infantry, a medium bomber, and 2 fighters. Okay, so our medium bomber's a 7, and a 2 does hit. We got 2 fighters at 6s, 3 and a 7, so there's 1 more hit, so that's 2 hits. And then we've got 3 2s, the 2 regular infantry and a Marine. No hits. Okay, so he's got 4 militia at 2s. And he did get a hit. Well, I got to take the other Marine. And actually, my Marine and 2 infantry are attacking a mountain, so they were only 1s, but I didn't get any hits anyways. Okay, so I take that last Marine. He lost 2 militia, so he's down to 2 militia left. Okay, so we got a medium bomber at a 7, a 3 hits, 2 fighters at 6s, 4 and a 1, so that's 3 total hits, okay? He only had 2 units left, so his 2 militia at 2s, a 10 and a 12, and they both miss, so we should take Primorsky Krai with 2 infantry. And that's worth $2. So we've gone up, I think, 6 so far. Okay, and then finally, we're going into eastern Manchuria, but I don't have to cross any mountains to get there. So we've got 3 artillery first strikes at 3. Silk has 2 infantry there. So 3 first strikes at 3. Wow, 1, 3, and 11. So 2 hits. So his 2 infantry go bye-bye, and that takes eastern Manchuria, so that's worth $1. And those are our 5 attacks. So we went up 2, 4, 6, 7. So we took 4 off of the KMT. So drop them from 7 to 3. We took 3 off the Soviet Union. They're from 73 to 70. And then we went up 7 as Japan from 48 to 55. So that is it for combat. So on to non-combat. So let's fly some planes back. So the 2 tactical bombers that attacked Hunan had went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They'll land in Nanking. Then we've got a medium bomber that went 1, 2, 3, 4. It came from an air base. It's going to go 5, 6 to Korea. The 2 fighters went 1, 2. They're going to go 3, 4 back to Rihe. Okay, and that should be it for our planes. Oh, I forgot one more combat. I forgot the seaplane attacking that sub. So sorry about that, guys. So we're going to get one roll here at a 3 for this sub. Oh, 6. I thought it was going to be a 1 for a second. Okay, so that's it. That seaplane will fly back to, what's that, Okinawa? Yeah, Okinawa. Okay, so that's it there. So on to non-combat. So let's start down here in Australia. So we've got a naval transport here. Is going to come down 1, pick up this medium armor in Western Australia, and go 2 back up there and drop him off in Java. Then we've got a medium armor in Sydney that's going to rail to Western Australia. Let's see. We're going to take this naval transport here, and it's going to strategic naval move 1, 2, 3, and go in port there in P15. Over here, we're going to have this air transport pick up this airborne 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and land in Honshu. Let's see, here in P29, we are going to have, we are at a major base, correct? Yep. Okay, so we got to move in a 4 with these units. So the 2 light carriers, the fleet carrier, the 2 heavy battleships, the 2 heavy cruisers, and the battle cruiser are all going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 into P16. So I'll move this marker over there. So again, that was the 2 light carriers with a fighter each, a fleet carrier with a tactical and a fighter, 2 heavy battleships, a battle cruiser, 2 heavy cruisers. The 4 fleet submarines that were there are going to stay in P29. Then the torpedo boat destroyer and the 3 regular battleships have a movement of 3. And they're going to come down 1, 2, 3 to P46. And I believe that's it for, oh, and last non-combat, we're going to take this guy in New Guinea and come over 1 to Dutch New Guinea. So I believe that is it for non-combat. So on to unit placement. So we got 4 medium armor that we're going to place in Rihe. We got 4 infantry we're placing in Malaya. We got 2 infantry we're placing in Nanking. A militia in Nanking. Militia upgrade here in Korea. Five militia. 1 on Borneo, because I think that's worth 2, isn't it? Yeah, 1 on Borneo. 1 on Java. 1 on Sumatra. And I did mean 1 more non-combat. I'm sorry, guys. Hopefully it's okay. I'm going to walk 1 of the infantry from Malaya down to Sumatra. Okay, that leaves me 2 militia left. 1 is going to go in Rihe, and 1 is going to go on Hawaii. And then we've just got 2 fighters, and they're going to go in Kyushu. And that should be it for unit placement. So collect income. We're at 55, and I believe we still have all of our... Oh, crap. Oh, well, I already put it down. Never mind. Sorry about that. So we're at 55, and I believe we still have all 19 bonus territories. So that's 74. So 74 bucks to spend on turn number 19. So let's just do a recap real quick. Down in Australia, the only thing, we've got a medium armor in Western Australia. Okay, here in C-Zone, of course it's covered. P-59, we've got a transport, 2 light cruisers, and 2 torpedo boat destroyers. Borneo has 2 militia and an artillery. Java has 2 militia and a medium armor. Sumatra has 2 militia and an infantry. There's an infantry on Dutch New Guinea and C-Zone P-46. There are 3 regular battleships and a torpedo boat destroyer. Hong Kong has an infantry. Kwangtung is now empty, which is disappointing. Hunan has a mountain infantry, 2 regular infantry, 2 motorized infantry, 2 medium armor. Shantung an infantry. Nanking has 2 tactical bombers, 2 infantry, 2 militia, and a AA gun. Malaya now has, let's see what we got for infantry. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. We have 14 regular infantry, 1 mountain infantry, 2 militia, and an AA gun. Korea has an infantry and a medium bomber. Eastern Manchuria has 3 motorized infantry, 3 artillery, and 1 infantry. Rihe has 2 fighters, 4 medium armor, and a militia. Primorsky Krai has 2 infantry. There's 2 destroyers and a naval transport in P-32. There's a naval transport and port in P-15. There's a destroyer and a naval transport in P-7. P-46 has 2 light carriers with 2 fighter each, a fleet carrier with a tactical and a fighter, 2 heavy battleships, a battle cruiser, and 2 heavy cruisers. Hawaii has 2 infantry, 2 militia, and there's 4 subs in that sea zone. And on Kamchatka, 2 Marines, and in that sea zone is a naval transport, a battleship, and a heavy cruiser. So hopefully this was a longer turn than I thought it was going to be, but hopefully not too confusing. We will see you guys, I think, for turn 19 and maybe the last turn of the game.